Hello, my name is Lizzie, and this is Liz's Literary Life, and today we are doing my February Tipsy Wrap Up. So, my Tipsy Wrap Ups are where I drink and talk about all of the books that I read in the previous month. Pumpkin is here too. You probably saw him in the intro. I am drinking the cheapest wine I could find from my delightful wine glass with a straw that you saw in a previous Tipsy Wrap Up. Excellent. Wine just tastes better through a straw. Everything tastes better through a straw. And this just brings me joy. So, we're going to talk about all the books I read in February. I am a little tipsier than usual. I had the hiccups and I had to wait for them to go away. And while I was waiting, I drank more wine. So, it is what it is. I don't know if this is going to make me very verbose and this video will be very long, or if I'm just going to be like, I liked it, bye. And then it'll be short, but we'll see. We'll see. I have to do stats first. Stats. I love stats. I read 8 books in February, which is fine. I mean, it's the shortest month, so honestly, compared to how busy I was, though I did have a week off, but that's good. I'm gonna say that's good. 2,891 pages, average of 361.375 pages, which is average. That's an average length of a book. Some more things are pretty average. My average rating is a 4. I gave a lot of 4 stars this month. I read 93 pages per day, which is lower than my typical, but I've been busy. It's okay. I read for 32 total hours this month. That number always just blows me away because I know I read a lot. I know that I spend all of my free time reading or try to, but that blows me away. 32 hours reading, and I had 5 books on my TBR and I read 2 of them. So that's cool. Here is my genre breakdown. I read an equal amount of romance, historical fiction, and nonfiction. Those were 2 each. And 1 mystery thriller and 1 fantasy. This is kind of abnormal for me. But you know what? I'll take it. I read entirely adult books. So the pie chart is a circle. I read no middle grade and no young adult books this month. This is my format breakdown. I read half of my books on audio, which actually I feel like I've been reading less audio this year. But I think I read some short audiobooks. I don't know. Here is my rating bar graph. I gave a lot of 4 stars this month and just 1, 3, 1, 3.5, 1, 4.5, and 1, 5. So, all in all I was going to say a pretty average month, but genre-wise, it's not. And also, I guess it was a pretty good month rating-wise because I didn't give anything lower than a 3. I'm getting right into it. If you don't know why I'm always looking here, it's because my laptop's there with my spreadsheet that has all the books and all the stats and everything. And I'm too impatient to read it and then tell you this. I just tell you this. So sorry about that. Anyway, that's January. Anyway, the first book I read in February was Finley, Donovan Knocks Him Dead by L. Cosimano. This is book 2 in the Finley Donovan is Killing It series. I buddy read this with Martine from Just Martine and Danielle from Danielle Reads, who I adore. I read this on audio. I've been reading this series on audio. And it is a cozy mystery series. In the first one, this writer, she's a writer and a single mom, and she gets mistaken for a hit woman, but she really needs the money. So it's it's silly. It's silly goofy. It's goofy. But I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Now I remember what happened this one. How did it end? I'm going to read the 3rd book soon, and I need to figure out how that one ended. I don't remember. I might have to have someone tell me, because I don't remember books after I read them. But I enjoyed it. It was silly goofy. This series is pretty silly goofy. Next, I read Count Your Lucky Stars by Alexandria Bellafleur. This is a romance. It is book 3 in the Written in the Stars series, but they're like companion novels because they're romance. You don't have to read them in order. It's just like you'll be spoiled by the fact that like the couple gets together in the end. But this one was about they were childhood friends. It's sapphic. They're 2 women. They were childhood friends, and then they hooked up in high school, and then it like ended badly and they lost touch, and now as adults they're getting together and they're roommates, and they're like awkward to friends to lovers, or like awkward to friends with benefits. It's fantastic. It's so tropey, but I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It's very spicy. Like there's some tension like the whole way through, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. Honestly, it could be a 4.5 in retrospect. It was a good one. I liked it. Next, I read Daughters of Sparta by Claire Haywood. This was for my January TBR. It was Adriana's pick from Carbon Bonded Books. Because in my January TBR, I read my friend's favorite books from 2022. And this one was left over. This is a Greek myth retelling of like the Trojan War, Helen of Troy and Clytemnestra, her sister, and from their childhood through the Trojan War through the end of the war. And I gave it 3 stars. I thought it was okay. I think it spanned too much time, or like it didn't do a good enough job of spanning as much time as it did. There were like huge time jumps that didn't feel very natural. And I know that you can do an epic, long, like lifelong story really well. I just don't know if Claire Haywood did that. But it was an interesting take on the Trojan War and on, like it was written as a historical fiction, which I thought was really interesting. I think it was an interesting take. I think it was okay. Claire Haywood did a good job. I just think I didn't love it. Next, I read Hamlet by Maggie O'Farrell. This is a literary fiction historical reimagining of Shakespeare's life. Because he had a young son who died when he was 11 years old, named Hamlet. And then a few years later, he wrote the play Hamlet. I'm conflicted about this one. I gave it 3.5 stars. What do I think? I think if I had read it at a different time, it could have been a 5-star show-stopping wonderfulness. I think for what it was, Maggie O'Farrell did a great job. Sometimes I think the writing was a little too poetic for me, just at the state I'm in right now. And I didn't like emotionally connect it to it. I think because I was like listening to it as an audiobook, like on my commute, and I was listening to it in short chunks, and I was like driving, and it just, I think, was not the best environment. Like when people were dying, I was like, okay, whatever. So I thought this was really good. I would recommend it to people. I just didn't connect to it very much, just based on the place I was and like what I was doing and my personal reading context. Next, I read, should I grab it? It's too far away. I can't reach it. The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, MD. I'm saying that in a silly voice, but it's a very serious book. This book is about trauma and what trauma is, how it happens, what brain mechanisms underlie trauma, and then different forms of treatment. Basically, like talking about treatment alternatives to psychiatric medication. And I thought this was really interesting. I've been reading it. I was buddy reading it with a group of friends, and we started in the beginning of January. So we were taking it really slow. And we finished it in February. Most of us finished it in February. And I enjoyed this. I gave it, oh my gosh, I gave it 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars. I didn't even remember that. I thought that it was very well researched. Clearly, Vander Kolk is very knowledgeable. And I thought it was really just a very good comprehensive review. I thought it was generally readable. I do have a minor in psychology, so I have some sort of psychology background, and I think that helped in terms of understanding the neuroscience when they were talking about that. But I think it was fairly accessibly written, especially the sections on treatment, and I thought it was really interesting. And maybe I am going to grab it because I want to show you my tabs. Here is the book, and here are my tabs. I'm not like a crazy tabber, but these are like sections that like resonated with me or I want to return to. And there's definitely stuff that I'm like gonna bring up in therapy, and like I'm just interested in a lot of this stuff, and there's a lot of stuff in here that I want to read more into. Like if you gave me a book on like internal family systems therapy, or like, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of stuff in here. I think that sometimes his stance on drugs, like on psychiatric medication, was a little harsh, because I think in certain cases they can be really effective. But I also understand that, like, I'm saying that from my personal experience, which is very different from the experiences of the patients he's talking about in here. And I also definitely see his point. So this was a really interesting read. I thought it was very well done. If you're interested in this topic, I would recommend it. But if you're not, it's not easy to read. So if you're not interested in this topic, I would say don't read it. But if you are, absolutely do. Okay. Picking up my drink again. Next, I read another nonfiction, You Never Forget Your First by Alexis Coe. This was for making sure I got her name right. This was for the Magic Treehouse Read Along, where we read Magic Treehouse books and nonfiction related to those topics, hosted by Just Martine and Kayla Ray Reads. I love the Magic Treehouse Read Along. I'm a huge fan. This was a biography of George Washington, and it was like written from a woman historian. She basically was like, there are no George Washington biographies written by women, and there are pumpkins playing with my puzzle and messing it all up. And like, there's a very distinct perspective that's taken in all of these biographies that's very masculine. And she kept referencing and like dissing this one biography that I'm going to grab because I own it. This is the Chernow biography, Washington, A Life. It's thick. I read like, can you see my bookmark? This much of it in high school, because I'm a history nerd and my father got it for me. And I was like she was criticizing this biography, and I was like, yes, go for it. Because this is like a fantastic piece of historiography, but it certainly has a perspective. And I thought that the new perspective that Alexis Coe gave on George Washington's life was really well done, really interesting and really well done. I liked the introduction better than I liked the rest of the book. I was like, when she was talking in the introduction about like why she wrote this book and her perspective and like where she's coming from, I was like, yes. And then like the rest of the book was like just pretty okay. You know, it was like, okay, it was solid. I gave it 4 stars. I think I'm a history gal. So I was primed to like it. I think a couple other people who read it didn't like it as much, and I totally understand that. Like, found it boring, which like I totally get. I do think the introduction was the best part. If you're interested in George Washington's life and you want to read a biography, I would definitely recommend this one. It also was short, whereas like this is a chunker. and the text is small. So definitely read that one, which was like a 6.5-hour audiobook, 300 pages. So yeah, do recommend. Next, I read Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This is a romance about a cooking show, and one of the main characters and contestants on the cooking show is non-binary. And that's what I thought was good about this, was the representation of a non-binary character and like in a romance. I thought it was pretty well done. I gave it 4 stars at the time. I'm honestly thinking about changing it to a 3.5 because in retrospect, there were more things I didn't like and like was disappointed by. But I did feel it. You know, I felt it. It's about these 2 contestants on a cooking show who like meet and fall in love, you know. It was pretty cliche, but it was fun. I enjoyed it. I don't really have much to say about it except I don't know if I've mentioned this in wrap-ups before. I feel like maybe I have. But my biggest pet peeve in romance books is when, I feel like I have to whisper this, when they have sex in public. It stresses me out. It grosses me out. I don't like it. Like, I don't think that's hot. Just, like, anyone could walk in at any time. It's probably dirty. Like, I don't like it. And this book had that. So that's a downside for me personally. I know that like some people like that, but I just, every time that happens in a romance book, I'm like, so. And the last book I read in February was A Dowry of Blood by S.T. Gibson. And this is a retelling, reimagining of the story of Dracula's brides. And it's from the perspective of Constanza. I listened to the audiobook and that's how they said it every time. Constanza. Who was well, not his first, but like she thought she was his first for a while. Bride, and it was really good. Everyone loves this book and I am no exception. I thought the audiobook also was fantastic. I think the audiobook narrator did a really, really good job of capturing the vibe and the atmosphere of the story. I gave this 4.5 stars. I think it didn't quite hit the 5-star mark, but I thought it was really, really generally very good. And I don't have much to say about it, but I do recommend it. Everyone was talking about it a while ago. It's a 2021 release, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was really well done, and I definitely recommend the audiobook because it's like the accents and like just the vibes were really strong. So that I recommend. And that is all the books I read in February. I have large and intense and expansive reading plans for March. So watch my March TBR video, you will see. And look forward to my March wrap-up when hopefully I have read all of those books. Probably not. And I'm going to watch some Glee with my friend. And we are going to say goodbye now. But you should talk to me in the comments about any of these books or anything that you want. Or just say hi or like, I don't know, chat. Let's have a chat. And you should also like and subscribe. Like, comment, and subscribe. Those are all the things you should do. And I am gonna say goodbye now. This is my song. This is my song. Bye.